Give
Yeah.
me one sec. Give me one sec. Let's see if you're on the main one now. Make sure I don't get the echo going. Let me lock that off. Uh, Stream starting. Yeah, we're live still.
We are now approaching Northampton.
That's you. That's your phone still. Yeah. Alright, cool. We're gonna man's here with Shaka right now still. Man's gonna, cause obviously everybody ain't used to the new channel where the lives are gonna be. We're just gonna roll on this one for like a half hour or something, or until like a sizable amount of people come over. You get me? Then we're gonna go over to the new. We all migrate over to the new channel. You get me? So right now, man was just in conversation with Shaka, the historian, the black historian of the park. You get me? So yeah, my was just talking about. I wanted to start on like a brief history of Zimbabwe prior to even Cecil Rhodes getting there. You get me? Cause I know more time whenever we tell your history, we start with like the slavery or the colonization. Like I want to know what was happening before that. You get me? What even made them want to come over there? What was the region like? What set of people was there? What was they doing before? So yeah, as much as man know about that, if man could enlighten man, you get me? As we get the numbers up in this thing still. But yeah, so like I said, my understanding was that the region, it was like, I think I heard something about the Bantus from Congo or something supposed to came down, like conquering until they got to that piece there and settled there. You get me? And the name Zimbabwe is supposed to mean Stone City or something like that, Stone Wars or building or something like that.
I'm not entirely sure the literal meaning of Zimbabwe, but it is the case that what we now call Zimbabwe was part of the Monomotapa Empire, which spanned more than Zimbabwe, but there was a city within the Monomotapa Empire called the Great City of Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And so you can still go and see the ruins of that city today. But I do want to correctly use the term conquer though, because when it comes to the Bantu expansion, like expansion seems like a more preferable term. I haven't seen too much evidence of this conquering sensibility that people keep talking about, as though masses of people were massacred and killed as a result of the expansion. I'm willing to be corrected on it. I'm just saying I'm not aware of it as it stands. But what I do know is that, like, for example, some say that the peopling of Zimbabwe, of that area of the continent, like there's evidence of people being there, like all 100,000 years ago. But like Monomotapa Empire is more, it's AD basically. You know what I'm saying? AD, but you're correct in the sense of the fact that when you look at the continent, in fact, civilizations in general, they tend to start around rivers. So basically, the Congo River Basin, and then in East Africa, Southern Africa, it was Limpopo and Zambezi. So people migrated along river lines. You know what I'm saying? From central to east, or some say from east to central and back again. But yeah, it's that ancient history there is complex. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
So we say you prefer to use the term expand as opposed to conquer.
Well, yeah, and there are some people that even challenge whether the Bantu expansion is actually an accurate terminology in general, because
the impression I got from what I read, I can't remember even where I read it from. I'm gonna try to find it still. Is that like there was a set of people that was already there, and then the Bantus came down and like took over their thing, innit? It's like either run them out of the area or fight them and got control of the area. You get me?
So the first people that are said to have been there are the Sand people. That's so like like in
the Chinese looking Bushman.
Yeah, right. So that's what they call it. Yeah. So but today they group the Khoi and the San together as the Khoi San. Yeah. So you find a lot of the Khoi San in Southern Africa. I think the majority of them now, I think, are in Southern Africa. But then you have evidence.
I thought the Khoisan was one people, like one. I didn't know
No,
it's a fusion of two different people.
as far as I understand it, the Khoisan are two distinct groups of people that with a shared origin, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So at a certain point in history, they become a collective group of people. Yeah. Now again, I'm willing to be corrected on that, but as I understand it, it's the Khoi and then the San, and the Khoisan and the Khoi and the San become the Khoisan. Yeah. This like in West Africa, you have the Ga and the Danme, and then they become the Gadanme when they merge together as a people group. But the point is that when it comes to peopling of the continent, there's a saying. I use the phrase that Robin Walker uses, but he gets this from Dr. Yusuf Ben Yekanen, and the saying is that the peoples of Africa are thoroughly integrated with each other. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. It's not and so when we look at the designations of who is and who is not a Bantu, oftentimes that is coming from a European anthropological context that is not necessarily always accurate, but because sometimes the designations that they drew in terms of who is and who is not a Bantu or who is and who is not a Negro, for example, is there's no real foundation to it. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it was just a matter of
when you say who's they joined the
European anthropologists. Okay. Yeah, so that's not to say that Bantu is not a legitimate terminology, like or you know what I'm saying, or it's a legitimate cultural group, but I'm saying that who is in terms of lineage, in terms of genetics, is and is not a Bantu is not always clear based upon when we look at European anthropology, because anthropology is really a racist discipline. It's Europeans go around the world and decided that they have the right to characterize people's cultures in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying?
Is their methods, is it scientific though? Like does it stand?
Oftentimes it's not. Yeah, oftentimes it's not. If you look at theories of race and how race was defined a lot of the times, there was often very little science involved in it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's not to say that there is no merit in it at all. It just means that sometimes where they drew the line, for example, between for example true Negro and Numidian, was based upon their perception of who was more European.
Okay.
Just see what I'm saying. So what they're calling Numidian are probably just as much the descendants of the so-called what they might describe as true Negro, but they've got more mix.
And when you saying a lot of these classifications that ain't based on science, they still stand today, like as recognized, like established.
Definitely, which kind of feeds into some of the conversations that we've been having recently at the park. You know what I'm saying? Because when they say that there was three races, there's Negroid, Mongoloid, and Caucasoid, and then they come to Africa, and then and they separate up peoples in terms of Nilotic and Semitic, this what I'm saying, as though one represents a distinct group, when really the Semitic people oftentimes are just varying different groups of mix, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So there are some people that have a higher degree of mix with Persians or Arabs or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And Arab itself is a Semitic identity. And then there are others who have a greater, African genetic mix. You know what I'm saying? So my point is that oftentimes those issues are complex, and people are still sieving through, what that means. You know what I'm saying? Like what these different things mean. You know what I mean? And defining them. So in the sense of what is and what is not a Bantu, can be more delineated through culture and language than it can through genetics, from my understanding.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, cool. So describe the setting as much as you know, like just prior to Cecil Rhodes coming and taking over the place.
So as I was saying, the region had the most powerful kingdom in the region was the Monomotapa Empire, and that lasted like from around like the 13th, 14th century. Yeah. Now, obviously, before that there were things happening, if that makes sense, because there was a kingdom, and I'm forgetting the name of the kingdom, but it begins with M. But
choppy, fam. Your thing gone choppy, brother. Let me see if it's just me, man. People, let me know if you can hear him, and it's just me. Cause right now I can't hear him still.
They were trading with Arabs, yeah, from long time, from like the 11th. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now still. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so basically, there's evidence of kingdoms. There's evidence of people 100,000 years ago. Yeah, the so-called Bantu expansion is said to have taken place around that 2,000 years ago. Then in around the 10th and 11th century, there was a kingdom. Again, I'm forgetting the name of the kingdom, but it preceded Great Zimbabwe. Yeah, Great Zimbabwe. It preceded Monomatapa. Monomatapa comes about in and around the 13th century, from my understanding. Yeah, and it lasts for a few hundred years. Yeah, a few hundred years. Yeah, Great Zimbabwe lasts. Yeah, and obviously during that time. So if we're dealing with the 1300s to the 1600s. Let's say, we're dealing with the period of enslavement now, yeah, where Europeans are starting to encroach on African land more and more and more. You know what I'm saying? So what happens in that environment is that the Shona people become the dominant group here in the Monomatapa Empire. All right, and they build the great city of Zimbabwe.
Who's some notable figures? What's Mugabe from? What's his peoples?
Mugabe is Shona. Mugabe is Shona.
Okay.
Is Shona, brother. Yeah.
Okay.
There are other groups there, but like for example, that the Monomatapa Empire would have taken up what is now Zimbabwe, parts of Zambia, I believe, and parts of Mozambique. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it was larger than it is today. But they're known to, again, have been trading with the Arabs and a few other Europeans. I think the Portuguese, because the Portuguese were the first to arrive on the continent, as far as Europe is concerned. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So the empire, there are great remains from the empire that still exists today, what they call the city of Zimbabwe, or the Zimbabwe ruins, yeah, that you can go and see. So it's an actual tourist site. You can go and see that all today.
So
the Monomatapa Empire collapses. I forget. I can't remember exactly when. Yeah, but obviously the empire collapsing doesn't necessarily mean that the people. Oh, the other thing I should mention is that it is known, for example, that there is a relationship between most of the languages of Southern Africa. You know what I'm saying? Now,
how's that work? How's that work? What language? What do you mean?
Because it's migrations, isn't it? Yeah. So people migrate, but they carry their language. Their language develops literally somewhere else. Another factor is for example, Shaka Zulu. One of his top generals was an ancestor by the name of Mzilikazi. Yeah. And some dispute happened between Shaka and Mzilikazi. Mzilikazi left the Zulu people and he traveled north. And he's said to be the founding father of the Ndebele people, which is the second largest people group in Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it suggests that there's a relationship between the Zulu language and the Ndebele language, if that makes sense. Yeah,
yeah.
Because basically the Zulu people and the Ndebele people have a common origin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I say, in terms of when people separate these groups, oftentimes if we go back far enough, we'll find evidence of a shared origin.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
So you saying that's
Yes,
that's the 1300s to the 1600s?
yeah, and I'm probably no, that's the 1300s to the 1800s because Shaka is the 1800s.
Okay.
Yeah, the early 1800s. And yeah, so and Zilikazi again had a dispute with Shaka, but apparently he was a great war general. You know what I'm saying? And if you know anything about Shaka, Shaka was dread. It's one of the reasons why I have the name Shaka, because Shaka is a character that splits opinion. Apparently, is and interestingly enough, the subject of this conversation in relation to Mugabe.
Yeah.
Shaka is also a character that splits opinion because he was a very he was known to be very brutal in terms of his army, yeah, and the things that they did.
Okay.
But at the same time, he was able to bring a large group of people together for the purpose of withstanding and throwing off of resisting the continued incursion of Europeans into the nation. You know what I'm saying? And he often had to, in order to protect the people, he often had to subdue a group by force and bring them into the Zulu nation, if that makes sense.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
yeah. You had to break a few eggs to make it on it.
Basically, yeah, to use a nice English metaphor.
Euphemism,
you know what I'm saying?
Euphemism.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But then and I believe so. For example, there are a few language groups in Southern Africa like Tswana and Sesotho. And
I think going chop it again, you know, fam. Can't hear nothing at the moment, still. Think I'm chop it down. Yo. Yo, fam. You see you there? Can't hear you now. Let me make sure you're still there, fam. You're connected. Still connected, still. I man can't hear you, still. I don't know if you can hear me. Reception general. But yeah, let me see. Cause man got up some timeline things still. Trying to track what man was talking about, you get me? In 18, this thing is on, it's called Zim Field Guide. Historical, cultural, and wildlife information for Zimbabwe. I typed in historical timeline of like key events, you get me? It's gone all the way back from, so the timeline begins pre-200 AD and ends in 2016 still. So where man was talking around, I think he was probably going to get into the Zulu general. Now my pronunciation of African words is dead still, so I'm gonna sound crazy, but yeah, man, I have to try still. Car.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, hear you now still. Okay, hear you now. Yeah. I don't know if you heard me still.
I missed it. Say again.
Okay, now I was just saying I got up some timeline in it of historical facts and timelines in it about Zimbabwe still going back to 600 AD.
Yeah, that will help me still, but go on.
Yeah, now I was just trying to follow along to where you was at, you get me? But yeah, I see I'm up to one point, like it said 1821, says the Zulu general Mzilikazi. Yeah. Of the Kamolo clan rebelled against King Shaka and created his own clan. So yeah, I don't know.
Basically, yeah. So they become known as the Indebele. They have some.
Go on again, you know. Yeah, I can hear you
still. So he rebels. They have some battles with other groups and some of the Europeans, and they eventually settle.
How come they was beefing? What they had disagreement on what they're supposed to do?
I don't know the details of that beef. I don't know the details of that beef. And to be honest with you, the history of Shaka in general is there's a lot of legend.
Okay.
And there's a lot of mystery surrounding Shaka. But so I don't know the context of what Mzilikazi and Shaka didn't agree on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what is known is that he started his own clan and then they begin to migrate And they got some battles with other peoples, including some Europeans, and then they eventually settle in what is today Zimbabwe, but specifically Matabeleland.
Okay.
Yeah, so Matabele is where they are at the moment. I'm making that point because that's going to become significant late as we go through the story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying,
Yeah, go on.
yeah, I know some of the.
Oh man.
Yo, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Sorry. And incidentally, so I know some of this because my first name Tafatsua is actually Shona.
Okay.
It's a Shona name, and my dad was learning to speak Shona when I was born or before I was born. By the way, before I go any further though, you asked about notable figures, yeah.
Yeah.
And the most notable by far, is an ancestor by the name of Umbuya Nehanda. Yeah. Umbuya is a title, Nehanda is her name. Nehanda Chawe Nyakasikana, yeah. Or this Nyakasikana Nehanda. But yeah, she and Sakuro Kaguvu is two ancestors who basically were responsible for starting what they call the first Chimurenga. The Chimurenga now is the War for Liberation, and this is in the 1800s, the latter part of the 1800s, when the British were basically expanding, so to speak, in terms of their invasion quests and colonization quests on the African continent.
Yeah.
So this is Cecil Rhodes' time, basically.
Okay. Yeah. So what? So that region there, before Cecil Rhodes landed, there were no Europeans on the ends.
Apparently, so as I said before, I think the Monomotapa Empire is known to have traded with the Portuguese and the Arabs. The Portuguese were the first to come and trade. So we're talking about the 1400s.
But what are you saying? But they were just on a trading thing. They weren't on no conquering thing.
They were on no. You know what I'm saying? So the actual settlement business began really in the 1800s. Yeah. Okay. So I'm principally with Rhodes. Yeah, like Rhodes and his Cape to Cairo project, the little murdering Ross that he was. But what it was is that they found gold in it. The Europeans did in Southern Africa, and so there was a bit of a rush here to kind of commandeer the gold. And Cecil Rhodes basically was the guy that was leading the charge in it.
What's the time? Which part? What you say? What, South Africa, the country?
No, Southern Africa in general. So South Africa, the country, doesn't exist until the late 1800s.
Yeah.
So before that, it's just Southern Africa. Yeah. Okay. This is why Cecil Rhodes was present in South Africa, but Zimbabwe was named after him because he was. You know what I'm saying? It was a Southern African thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he Botswana, Mozambique, he's all up in all of that. You know what I'm saying? You know. And up until the Berlin Conference, when Mozambique get given to the Portuguese, you know what I'm saying, and so on and so forth.
All right, slow down a bit. Go back to like just before Cecil Rhodes got there. So yeah, so him getting there now. So he went there for what? What was his reasons for being there? Who sent him?
So all right, the context for it, the British Empire, the would-be British Empire. The context here is basically 1807. Britain passes the Abolition of the Slave Trade Act, which supposedly abolished the slave trade, and again we have to make the distinction between slave trade and slavery, because when they said that they were abolishing the slave trade, they still had colonies in the Caribbean, in the Americas, that still enslaved Africans. You know what I'm saying? So basically what they were literally talking about was the kidnapping. Going to the coast of Africa and kidnapping people. But really the slavery or the kidnapping and transport of Africans became an expensive business. Yeah, for a number of different reasons. Principally, the fact that Africans kept rebelling. Yeah, and so you capture Africans basically at threat of your life, and there were constant rebellions, and the number of rebellions were increasing. Yeah, consistently over time. All right, so they abolish the so-called slave trade, but simultaneously, they begin to invade African land.
Yeah.
Yeah, so prior to 1807, like, even though slavery had a devastating impact upon the continent, yeah, to some degree, there was some semblance of autonomy, if that makes sense, or self-rule, yeah, on the continent. But they begin to now invade, and they want to start taking over land. Now, this is basically soon after, yeah, the so-called abolition of slavery, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So one of the areas that they begin to encroach on is what is now today's South Africa, Zimbabwe, and that area.
So why are they abolishing slavery and going deeper into Africa?
Because again, like, so this is the preceding period to the Industrial Revolution, but factory work is starting to become a thing. You know what I'm saying? Technology is developing, and slavery becomes costly. But people that have been used to not having to work labor for how much different hundreds of years, yeah, are just now looking for another means to enrich themselves, yeah. And because gold was the currency, it became the precious mineral of the time, they went to where they could find gold in abundance, which was Africa, and Southern Africa in particular. So as well, they had imperial intentions, because they were looking to develop on their empire. You know what I'm saying? Like to build empire, and these things. So it's all about basically natural resources, isn't it? And commandeering natural resources, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Yeah, so now we're getting into the periods of the Boer Wars, basically, when the British are invading Southern Africa, and the Dutch. Sorry, we're not forgetting the Dutch now. Yeah, the Dutch were there as well, but the Dutch were further south, innit? So, and the Dutch and the British. So basically, European nations are trying to commandeer Africa's natural resources for themselves.
Yeah.
As a result of it, the Dutch and the British catch up in war with each other.
Okay. But they're fighting over the same area, South Africa.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Southern Africa. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So how'd that go now? So what happened with that? So what, it was Cecil fighting against who?
Cecil obviously is a British guy, innit? So and I'd say the British were more successful in that, but not so successful that the Dutch were completely wiped out. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I swear the Dutch was stronger in South Africa than the British.
They were at different periods. Yeah, they were at different periods, but they fought for that, innit? You know what I'm saying? And then at one point it's like they came to a peace treaty. So for example, the so-called Afrikaans language is built off of the Dutch language.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So culturally, one could say that that the Dutch had a greater cultural impact. Yeah.
Yeah.
On it, but it doesn't mean that they won the war with the British necessarily.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that's a cool, yeah. So
Yeah.
So get to now Cecil in South Africa, or how did the place get called Rhodesia?
So basically, Rhodes goes there. By the way, this is so when you hear about De Beers, yeah, the diamond company. Yeah. So again, gold, diamonds. Yeah, they're after these precious minerals, isn't it? Yeah. So the De Beers company goes back to this history. You know what I'm saying?
Yo.
So he's invading with and I'm sketchy on the history of Rhodes specifically, but the stories went out my head. There is a story specific to how and why he named it Rhodesia, but basically that was supposed to be the central point for his own expansion into Africa. So Rhodes had this thing about Cape to Cairo, yeah, which was the Cape of Southern Africa to Northeast Africa, yeah. What's it called? Kemet or Egypt today. So basically, what it is that the British were actually exploring the continent, yeah. So they had a vision to link the Cape to Cairo for the sake of having a trade run, yeah, of precious mineral resources up into Britain, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That was the vibration that they were dealing with at the time. You know what I'm saying? But to be honest, I'm missing a lot of links in my head in regards to Cecil Rhodes himself.
Yeah.
To say that he was a beast, yeah, like a real demon. Like this is, like when this guy epitomizes the statement, "The white man's the devil."
Mad thing.
This is the reason why people like him is the reason why that statement came about.
What behavior was he keeping up?
Just general murder, raping, pillaging, enslavement. You know what I'm saying? A lot of what we see with King Leopold in the Congo later on, Cecil Rhodes was dealing with. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of put it this way, the situation that we see in Southern Africa today in relation to oppression as associated with the mining trade,
yeah.
this is the genesis of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of what we see today was developed because of Cecil Rhodes' activities in that region of the world. Yeah. But he was sent though, by Parliament. So this guy had an impact upon Parliament. So he wanted settler colonialism to become a feature like of British foreign policy basically in the world, and he campaigned for it. Yeah, and I'm saying.
And,
so yeah,
and what was he? Did he have a lot of backing back home in Britain?
Evidently, yeah, they funded him. You know what I'm saying? They funded him.
Okay.
And much of what he was doing. There were others as well. There was another guy, another great British explorer whose name I'm forgetting, but he didn't get as much as he was backed at one point and not backed at other points. But he was sent when the people in Sudan were fighting back here under who they considered to be the Mahdi of the time. This guy was sent to squash this particular rebellion, and ended up stranded in Sudan. And he apparently had some frictions with Cecil Rhodes as well. And Cecil Rhodes basically was more favored by the British government. But again, there are gaps. 1800s. So we're talking about mid to late 1800s. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? During this period, so like more 1880s, 1890s, I'd say. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but bearing in mind now, but when we get to this point, yeah, it's not just Britain now. Portugal is encroaching on African land. France is doing the same. Belgium is doing the same, and Germany is consolidating into one nation. Yeah, Germany is consolidating into one nation. So before this period of time, like Germany was not a nation, and I think this the same goes for the it was that fire territory. Sorry, can you hear me now? Right. Where did I come out from? All right. Say again. All right. All right. I was saying that bearing in mind, yeah, that it wasn't just Britain. Portugal was invading and encroaching on African land and territory, as was Belgium, as was France, yeah. And then you have nations like Spain, and then you have nations like Germany, who were just beginning to consolidate as one nation. You know what I'm saying? So like Germany, as the founding of Germany dates back to the 1800s, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, so that the mid to late, I think the 1870s is when Germany became a nation officially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So different groups of people were brought together to create Germany, and then it was that act. But based upon doing that, Germany, because the major program at that time was what they call primitive accumulation, yeah, which is basically going and thieving people resources and land. Basically, Germany was in danger of becoming the superpower in Europe, yeah. And so when European nations are going to the continent, sometimes they'll buck up each other and they'll get into a skirmish and a war.
Yeah.
And it was Germany and Belgium in particular that were able to come to some agreement and call the other European nations, as well as America, to the table in 1884, 1885 for the Berlin Conference.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Berlin Conference was basically like the diplomatic solution. Instead of fussing and fighting over these territories, why not meet and agree who owns what?
Okay. We saying
Yeah.
no African nations was privy to that.
There were no Africans present, let alone African nations. You get me?
Yes. Continue on then, fam. Oh man, I think fam. Can't hear nothing again. Honestly.
South Africa, again, the Dutch and the British are fighting over it at different points, isn't it? But what and that is basically how white man.
Yeah, man have to run that back still, cause all of that got chopped out still. From they made the Berlin Agreement. From after that still, everything was nothing still. They're choppy. Well, now I can't hear nothing. I don't even know if you can hear me.
So yeah,
It's a sin and a shame.
yes. Basically, right. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It was a microphone.
Oh man, it's choppy, man.
Levels.
Yeah. That's better still. Hope it stay like that.
On check one. So cool. What am I saying? So you can hear me now, yeah?
Yeah.
What I was saying is, am I good again?
No, I can hear you now still.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you still. You can't hear me.
All right. So basically, as a result of the Berlin Conference, I can hear you. Right. Berlin Conference. Britain gets Zimbabwe. Yeah.
When's the what year's the Berlin
Dutch
Conference?
And 1884, 1885.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like I believe it's November 1884 through to February 1885. I think it is. And there are some agreements that are not completely ratified until August of 1885. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, I said, but you know what I mean? What am I saying now? What was I saying? Right. So basically, Britain gets Zimbabwe, and the Dutch and the British. Well, officially Britain got South Africa, yeah. But because the Dutch were still settled there was always like a culture war between the Dutch and the British in South Africa.
The Dutch weren't at that meeting there in the Berlin Conference thing.
I believe they were, but not everybody that was there had a massive stake in the negotiations. Okay. Yeah, but I believe the Dutch were present. I'm not.
So they know. So man don't know. Man don't know if they signed off on in the same agreement with the British.
they were all a part of it. So yeah, they all signed off it to some degree, but some of the disputes continued, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, people agree, but on the ground. So basically, what was different about what was unique about Southern Africa was the extent of the settlement. Yeah. So oftentimes,
Sure.
European settle in as much mass numbers as they again levels. Content.
Yeah, I can hear you now still.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's choppy though, man. Keeps on chopping out, fam. I don't know what I want still.
Yes, sir. What's the last thing you heard?
As soon as you started answering the question, man, about if they made agreements or not, you said like they made certain agreements, but there was like obviously all the fine details weren't ironed out. You get me?
I need to revise the extent to which the Dutch signed off and didn't sign off on certain things.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I need to revise
basically, you said the British got was granted South Africa, but the Dutch was there like on the ground.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah. So what I was saying.
Sure. I'm going again, you know. You can't hear nothing, you know, General. Thing gone. Lock off.
Hear me now?
Okay, hear you
Is
still.
that
Yeah. Sound better now.
all right? What I was saying is that the White Africa was the extent of the settlement. Yeah, so more Europeans tended to settle in Southern Africa than they settled in most of the other African nations.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So that I'm not entirely sure what the reason for that was. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, Kenya had a substantial amount of African, so Europeans there. But you know, the so-called Mau Mau, the Kenyan Land Freedom Army, had something to say about that when they went on the rampage in the 1950s. So a lot of the Europeans that were in Kenya left during the Mau Mau rebellion, but they had a substantial amount of British people there as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But nothing like what was in Zimbabwe and Southern Africa. So like, you know, basically the numbers of white people that settled there and also had children there were greater than a lot of other nations.
Mm-hmm.
You get me?
All right.
So yeah. So you know.
Yeah.
So where we at now?
So Britain and the Dutch over who's gonna hold the most power in South Africa. You get me? And what you saying at that time, Zimbabwe was called what?
Rhodesia.
Okay, at the agreement. So at the agreement, is that when it got named Rhodesia?
That's a good question. I believe it was actually before. Cecil Rhodes named it Rhodesia before, but I think that it was officialized then. I believe I'm correct in saying that the actual name Rhodesia preceded the Berlin Conference. I could be wrong on that though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could be wrong on that.
All right. Cool. So what's Mugabe doing all these times now? Where's he at? When's he comes on the scene?
Mugabe ain't born yet. I forget the year that he was born. But this is the late 1800s, isn't it? So Mugabe's not born yet. Let me just double check when Mugabe's born. Double check when Mugabe's born. I can double check this. Hold on. Draft for the phone. Right. Mugabe is born in 1924. Yeah, Mugabe is born in 1924.
And when he
Hello?
come on the scene, what was the what was the state like in Zimbabwe?
Colonization, straight colonization.
Yeah.
You
And
know what I'm saying?
who was running things?
Say again?
Who was running things?
The British. Yeah, now I can't remember the names of the different governors and all kinds of different people that was that were there. But basically, we're dealing with basically settler colonialism. So yeah, so white minority on the land, and basically slave labor. Yeah, mining for diamonds, mining for gold. This is again, this is where the gold and diamond wealth of Britain comes from. So the Bears Company is centered in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Yeah. So Zimbabwe is fueling. So like all this stuff about diamonds are a girl's best friend and all that kind of stuff. This is the history of it.
Okay.
You get me? So yeah, most of it is most of it is most of the diamonds are coming from Zimbabwe. I understand.
Right. It's saying 1939 September World War II begins. Many Europeans and Africans enlisted to fight in Europe and North Africa.
Definitely, yeah. So Zimbabwe would have been a part of that. In fact, sorry, before that though, it's necessary to note that in World War One, yeah, Germany lost all of its so-called colonies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were basically apportioning African land.
Yeah.
Among
tell me what World War One was about. What was that about? In a nutshell.
There's all kinds of different stories. One story says that it started with the death of some Turk, and you know what I'm saying. But the long and short of it is that they were still fighting over their colonial spoils. Yeah, which is why, as a punishment, Germany lost all of its its colonies at the end.
Why was everyone fighting Germany?
Say again?
Why was everyone fighting Germany? Outbreak of World War One leads to many Europeans and Africans enlisting, and after initial training began, posted to Europe and East Africa, and only returning after World.
I had a whole thing on this last year sometimes, but the details of it are sketchy in my head at the moment. Yeah. But to suffice to say, it wasn't one individual thing that started World War One. Yeah, and in fact, some say that World War One need not have started at all. It was like because at least with World War Two, generally speaking, people say, yeah, Hitler, yeah. World War One, you know what I mean? You know, and I'm probably and there are probably people that are listening that could probably shell out World War One better than I can. But from my understanding, it's like it's called a needless war because there was really nothing that started it, as far as a specific incident or event. You know what I'm saying?
We said more time. How Africa's being considered is just nothing more than a place where to dip resources from.
Basically, and to enslave people. So basically, I'm remembering that people are also a resource.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, you
know. All right. Cool. So, yeah. So World War II. What you saying now? After World War II, end of World War II signals the return of many ex-servicemen. So we saying all of the so Africa's governed by Rhodesia. Them time there was called still. I'm trying to find out who it was governed by still.
Yeah. So to stick up in here. So basically, the current borders now that we know as Zimbabwe, were drawn up by Cecil Rhodes himself. Yeah. So this is what the territory that he wanted to be called Rhodesia. Yeah, and this was sanctioned at the Berlin Conference.
This was the part that he loved the most outside Africa. Can you put
his
name on it, Alec?
Yeah, basically.
So why? What's so special about Rhodesia?
I have no idea, but the diamonds might have something to do with it.
See you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So Cecil Rhodes. So basically, and so now during this point though, it's necessary to note that the Shona and the Indebele people are both fighting the British.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're both fighting the British.
So for the people was under manners. I thought they're fighting in the war for on the request of the British. Oh man, like the thing's choppy enough, fam. This thing's mad still. What do you say? Some set of people on this guerrilla warfare. Like when you come back on, still you're gonna have to answer. I don't know if you can hear me still. We saying all through there must have been some set of people who was putting up a resistance to foreign invaders controlling the area. You get me? I don't know what I'm going for them still. Cause if everybody was under manners, I don't know. Cause I swear, even Mugabe was supposed to be like when he came on the scene, like, he was talking the proper Queen's English. You get me? I don't know if he served in the army as well. I don't know that still. But yeah. Your thing's choppy, cuz yeah. Can't hear nothing. Thing lock off. Let me fix this real quick. In the meantime. In between time. Yeah. People that bear with me. Technicalities. Technicals. So wait for my brother Shaka to come back through and run the thing. I'll go on with this now, let's see.
Content over everything.
Oh. Yeah, man. That on you. Yeah, everyone who ain't watched that video there, go log on to that as well. And this one done. See how we on road. Interview the people, them and find out what are going on, you get me? So people's them opinions. I man's bugged with this thing though, man. One my eye ain't working. Supreme Able, yeah, my brother. Can get it still. Pause. No homo. One sec. Let me sort that in the background. Yo, fam.
Yeah, sorry about that one.
Yeah, that was a long one still.
I apologize. Yeah.
Say nothing. What was I saying? Yeah. So the people them that was fighting against the British. That's what he was talking about. So the Shona and Oot.
No, so I've gone back to the 1800s though, yeah, the late 1800s. My point is that when the British were trying to colonize, sorry, yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, the thing's mad, man. You keep on cutting out, man. Yeah, you're back now though, still.
Yeah. What's it called? So basically, what I was saying is that in the late 1800s, when the British were invading, the Shona people and the Indabella people were both fighting the British. Yeah, which is an important part of the story.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm saying so. Yeah, but then in 1890 something, both nations were subdued by the British. Innit? Yeah. Both nations were subdued by the British. So.
We saying is that the only two groups of people that are on the region even up to this day?
They're the largest two. So there are other smaller groups. Some of their names I can't remember, but yeah, those are the largest two. And as far as the politics of Zimbabwe is concerned, these are the two groups that define the scene politically more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But the point is that when the British were first invading that area, they were both there and they were both fighting back. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Are them fights cool?
Well, eventually they lost, didn't it? In 1890 something, the late 1890s, they both lost in different ways. You know what I'm saying? So now what happens is But you had Shonaland and Indabeleland. Yeah, Shonaland and Indabeleland, because of the British partitions. Yeah, what's it called? Becomes Rhodesia. Yeah, and then you have Northern Rhodesia and Southern Rhodesia. Northern Rhodesia is basically what is Zambia today, and Southern Rhodesia is Zimbabwe.
And we saying in those different regions, the people them are basically the same sets of people in both sections.
Yeah, so it's well known that basically among the Zambian people and the Zimbabwe people are basically the same people to us to some degree.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So what was the reason for the division there?
So colonization. So basically, when you put people, so now the Indabele and the Shona, whereas they both had the different territories, are now housed in one land called Rhodesia. Yeah. And one of the lessons that we have to learn from history is that colonizers tend to create friction between peoples. You know what I'm saying? So the idea that peoples in Africa were always warring and that kind of thing. Sometimes nations just live side by side and then they have a problem with each other. Mm-hmm. But other times, colonization causes friction in it. You know what I'm saying? Now, what's notable though is that the as far as the war for liberation, yeah, from the 1970s, that friction was present, but the Indabele and the Shona people were able to fight together in order to overthrow the British. Yeah, and they were assisted in that by peoples in Mozambique, peoples in Botswana, South Africa, and so on.
I might have. I was just reading some comments at the same time still.
Yeah.
So we saying they was able to overthrow the British?
Yeah.
When?
So again?
When was that?
In the 1980s. So in 1980, Zimbabwe declares its independence.
Okay.
So it's colonized.
And that's when they was working together.
So again?
That's when the people them was working together.
Yeah. So there was friction between them sometimes, but so like the two primary organizations were led by the Shona people, which is ZANU,
Mm-hmm.
And then you had ZAPO, which was led by the Indabele people.
And something like each side of them people, they had allegiances with Russia and China. One of them was allied with Russia. Right. One of them was Russia with China. So
the story goes that ZAPO, it was more allied with a lot of the ultra kind of communist nations, so that Russia and them thing there, and ZANU was apparently led by allied with China, but also in South Africa you had the ANC and the PAC, the ANC, the African National Congress, and the PAC, the Pan-African Congress of Azania, and ZANU. So these are Africans now. Mm-hmm. ZANU was more allied with the PAC, the Pan-African Congress of Azania, and ZAPO was more allied with the ANC. Yeah. Now the reason why that's important is because the PAC was considered more revolutionary than the ANC. Yeah. So for example, whereas the ANC slogan was one man, one vote, the Pan-African Congress of Azania was talking about one settler, one bullet. They wanted to remove the white man off their land. You know what I'm saying? So allegiances. So you can, and it's not quite as simple as this, but it's informative to know that ZANU was more allied with the PAC, and ZAPO was more allied with the ANC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, but man did skip a lot still. I wanna know when Zimbabwe first started. I mean, Mugabe first came on the scene. What was the region like, and what was what was he doing like when he first became like a noteworthy figure? What was his first
So
action?
he becomes a notable figure, as far as I'm aware. When he goes, he ends up in the 1960s in Ghana, yeah, under Nkrumah's government, and he's a student there. So basically, and I'm not sure the details of how this became possible.
He's a
But
student. What do you mean under his government?
yes,
Was he working for the Ghanaian
no.
government?
So
He was just a
what it
student.
is that so Nkrumah invited Africans from across the continent to come and study in Ghana.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somehow I'm not entirely sure as to how, but Mugabe becomes a big beneficiary of that program. So he ends up in Ghana, which is why his first wife is Ghanaian.
Okay.
Yeah. They met when he was studying in Ghana.
What you mean? He got invited to study like on a scholarship or something?
Type thing, yeah. So he studied free basically.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That kind of vibration.
So,
Yeah. And you know
what's special about him?
Bro, sorry, bro. Keep the thing down, yeah. I got to do something quickly. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll be back in like 60 seconds.
Alright.
Yeah.
Say nothing.
Alright, cool. Yes, sir.
Say nothing. Alright, cool. Man's gonna run some of this. Let me know if you can hear this still. I'm gonna run some of this and me
Africa's the
adjust some of my man's
breadbasket,
points.
and this service sector economy, yeah. This economy is all about end product. You understand what I'm saying? All of the resources that make the products come from different places, especially Africa. So they're dependent on Africa. That's why they have to have that stranglehold on Africa.
Can I also add as well? It's not just Africa. They want world domination. Yeah. So it's not just Africa's resources that they're stealing. Yeah. It's everywhere in the world.
It's true.
They've done it to
Colombia.
They've done it everywhere.
We know this.
They want world domination.
Yeah, we know this.
They've done it to India. Look what they've done to the Indians and the Pakistanis. Look what they've done to the
Ask
Chinese.
Shaka what anything
They've done
Mugabe
it to
did wrong.
it's not just
I'm
Africa.
gonna ask him about that
it's
still.
everyone that they've done it to.
Listen, yeah, this is me personally, yeah.
Quite enough.
I'm concerned. I'm not saying that
You're concerned with Africa.
I people them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man definitely don't want the echo chamber still. So I do want to air the complaints people had about Mugabe. Not just Mugabe still, but anything what they think was wrong or could have been done better in order that the people them had justice and a better quality of life, you get me, in the region. So could have been anyone still. But yeah, I definitely don't wanna, ain't trying to protect no one if they done wrong, you get me? So I'm trying to look at the thing academically, scientifically, you get me? Trying to avoid even the right or wrong, like moral judgment. I just want to know what the facts are of the situation, you get me? So yeah, I definitely don't want to shy away from that one. But what I'm saying, man's looking to everybody log on to, let me put the link again still. Log on to the next channel still, car. Man's gonna continue on when Shaka comes back. Man's gonna continue on the next channel and send out the link as well still. Cause that's where man's gonna do the lives from now on. Well, I'm probably gonna keep running it like this until people know like that's where it's at. You get me? It's gonna start off on the on this channel, just to build the numbers up, and then we run over to the next channel until everyone knows that that's where it's at still. Give me 1 sec, let me get the link. Give me 1 sec. Yeah, so the link there in the chat. Click that. The channel's called Tark the Tings then. Every Jamaican know what that means still. Can I post links in the chat? I don't think it will let you still. You have to be a moderator to do that. I don't know what link you're trying to post or. But yeah, log on to that channel there, subscribe, so you don't miss a man go live. When Shaka comes back, we're gonna be over on that channel there still. Tark the Tings then. Every Jamaican know what that means. So if you ain't Jamaican or even if you are Jamaican and you don't know what that means talk the things then. It means talk the truth. Whatever it is, the elephant in the room. It's usually meant when someone's treading around the issue and there's a big elephant in the room and nobody don't want to address it. The emperor wears no clothes. That's what that means still. So that's what that channel is going to be dedicated to. No holds barred. Yeah, talk the thing them. I want to know the truth, regardless of who it favors, you get me? Yeah, so even Auntie was coming in there with contrary, objecting opinions, you get me? And I think it's healthy, as long as it's done respectfully, that we put in as many different perspectives as possible, as long as the people them talking believe it's the truth, you get me?
What's that?
I believe it's a valuable contribution. Yes, fam, you're back, yeah?
Yeah.
Alright, give me 1 sec. Talk the things them, yeah. TD. Straight, yeah. Everyone log on to that one still. We're gonna go over to the other one. I wanna close this one. But obviously the chat's gonna stay running still, cause the hangouts ain't even live still. But yeah, I wanna make sure everybody migrates over to the next one still, so. Yeah, this show's gonna lock off. Abel, I'm gonna send you the link in the background still. So you can jump on as well.
He's joining?
Abel, Supreme Abel.
Alright, okay.
Yeah. You asked for the link still, so I'm gonna make him jump in still. Yeah, everybody that's on right now, we're gonna continue the conversation. I'm gonna post the link one more again. We're gonna continue the conversation on the new channel still. We're gonna get into Mugabe. We're gonna get more detailed into Mugabe, what he actually done in Zimbabwe, and what his impact has been on the region and the surrounding areas. How he's been, like, we want to address some of the rumors as well, you get me? And like I was saying to the people, them Shaka, I'm coming from an academic angle, you get me, where I just want to establish the facts of the situation, regardless of if it makes man look good or bad. It's not my objective to make man look good or bad, you get me? I just want to establish what the truth is, and we go from there, you get me? So, yeah, I'm going to post a link. I want to make the truth known. And then we just we'll have a better perspective. We'll have a better perspective on life in general, you get me? And the figures them that like are noteworthy, like well-known figures. At least we'll have a more substance-based opinion rather than emotional, you get me? Alright, yeah, so give me 1 sec. Everybody, see the link there in the chat. I'm gonna lock off this one and start the new one ASAP still. Give me 1 second.